Alright folks, Project Spirit, my 1975 Ford Maverick four-door sedan. A car that everyone is familiar with here on YouTube. We made a change to her. Her rear tail panel used to look like this. And now it looks like this. Stick around in this episode as I walk you through what we did, the products we used, and why we did what we did. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel, where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome once again to do-it-yourself budget hot rodding, and we're going to talk about none other than Project Spirit. Project Spirit is my 1975 four-door Maverick. She's been with us here on the channel, creeping up. This October will be, believe it or not, 5 years is the making of this video. Now, along with that, Project Spirit, when we got her, she wasn't exactly ooh la la. We had to put a lot of time and effort into her. But along with that, she needs a lot of body work. Believe it or not, Project Spirit, despite the fact that she's in pretty good shape, her old paint is just starting to wear off, and we're beginning to see a lot of surface rust. So, with that being said, we need to take a look at what we can do to preserve her body, and what we can do to get rid of those rust holes and things like that. So the first stop in our journey in this attempt to make Project Spirit look good, to salvage her body and that sort of thing, is going to be her tail panel. The spot where the tail lights go. That's this spot right here. Now, that being said, you can see in that video clip, there's a lot of pitting in the paint. Surface rust is beginning to form. This is not a good thing, folks. So it came time, when we had to look at what we were going to do. Now, my dear friend, 3rd Gen 83, who also owns a Maverick, made the suggestion that it would be in our best interest to give Spirit that nostalgic Maverick grabber look. Now, when you're talking about the Maverick grabbers, one of the things that they did was they blacked out that tail light panel, the rear valence as it's sometimes called. They blacked out that panel, and that was what they did on the grabbers, which, if you know your history, started back in the 1960s, and if I remember correctly, it was first started by Mopar, the Chrysler Corporation, to a lot of you today. But back in the old days, it was started with Mopar. As a matter of fact, I'd actually talked to a guy who owned a '68 Dodge Charger and owned a Dodge Cornet that both had their taillight panels blacked out. And we'll talk about why they did that a little bit later in the video, but for right now, that was our first stop. So what we had to do was we had to take everything off. We had to take her down to the bare metal. We had to actually put products on it that would stop the rust, any rust that was underneath all of that paint, and then we had to build her back up with primer, and then we had to hit her with a satin black paint. How did we do all of that? Well, here's how we did it. welcome back. I hope y'all enjoyed that little bit. Um, let's talk about the products that we actually used. Besides sandpaper and electric drill, the electric drill, all we did was take some aircraft paint remover, and we sprayed it on directly onto the paint. Then we kind of let that soften that paint. That kind of bubbled up a little bit, and on the directions, it actually suggests that you use a plastic scraper to remove the paint. The problem is that with old paint like what's on Project Spirit, that just wasn't going to cut it. We're talking this paint has held up 45 years as the making of this video. So what we did was is we let it soften it, and then we took my electric drill and a wire brush, and that was one of the things you were actually seeing happen. Once we got it down to the bare metal, we used a Loctite, rust inhibitor, and then we built it back up with primer. Now, let me say right now, I know some of you are going to say some bad things about using rattle cans, spray cans like this. Let me say right now that I contacted the people at Rust-Oleum, and I actually talked to them for about an hour. And they told me everything that I was going to need to know about that. And along with that, I actually talked to a guy who used to do body work professionally at our local AutoZone over in Deloge. So I wasn't going into this project blind. It'd been 15 years as the making of this video since I've done any body work whatsoever. So the products have changed, the procedures have changed a little bit, but the ultimate objective is to not only paint your car and make it look good, but to prevent it from rusting. So I talked to the folks over at Rust-Oleum, and they basically said just stay with the products as much as possible from Rust-Oleum, because we don't know what products from other companies will do. We would be testing all day, and at some point we just can't keep up with all the products that are out in the world. So they suggested, when I told them that I had gotten some self-etching primer, they said that was perfect. That 3 good coats, 3 good light coats would be all that we would need. So that's exactly what we did. Once that was done, we took some 400 grit sandpaper and lightly scuffed the entire area. And then we used they call it a matte finish, satin. Some might, depending on the company, they might even call it flat. But basically, it's a non-glossy black paint. And this was actually, even though it's listed as a matte, it's as close to a satin as you're going to get, which is what they used on the Maverick Grabber taillight panel, or rear valance. So that was the reason why we used this particular product. And again, the folks at Rust-Oleum guaranteed that if we did this right, this would last for many, many, many years, and we wouldn't have any problems with rust. So now Project Spirit has a brand new, more aggressive look, which, if you know anything about the Grabbers, that was not a performance package, but it was a performance trim. It just made them look mean. So that's exactly what we did. And it did enhance her look. I mean, she practically looks like a brand new car in a lot of ways. Of course, now we will not be using this for the rest of the body. We might be using it in a few other areas, but for the most part, the rest of her body will be painted a different color of blue. And of course, there will be plenty of videos about removing dents and removing dings and removal of rust, cutting out rust, welding in new metal, and doing real body work, very similar to what you would see in the body shop. And this will stop the rust. It'll make Project Spirit look really great in the end, and it'll preserve her for, who knows, maybe another 45 years, which is exactly what we're shooting for, is to make her last a really long time. So that's our objective. Now, I know some of you might be asking the question, why did car companies start blacking out the tail panels, the tail light panels on these cars? Why was that a performance thing? Well, That actually started back in the 1960s, around 1968 to be exact. And as I said, the first company that I know of that started doing it was the Mopar Corporation. The reason why this was done is around that time we were talking about going to the moon. And with us talking about going to the moon, they started blacking out the taillight panels just like we did on Project Spirit. And at night, when the taillights were lit up, it was to resemble the thrusters on a rocket. So now Project Spirit now has her touch of the 60s from the muscle car era, even though Project Spirit is not a muscle car. So for those of you who did not know that, I will say that I didn't know that for many years and learned that from John Snyder's YouTube channel. And if you don't know who John Snyder is, he played Bo Duke in the Dukes of Hazzard. So I learned something from someone who actually, he's also, a gearhead. He loves cars just as much as a lot of us out here in the custom car world. And yes, he also owns his own version of the General Lee. So if you've not checked out his channel, he talks a lot about the Dukes of Hazzard and stuff like that. And I still love that TV show, even though I'm a little bitter about the fact of what they did to all those 68 and 69 Dodge Chargers. So even though I'm a little bitter about that. All right, so that brings us to our usual stopping point. As usual, shout outs at the end of the video. Along with, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, I want to give a special shout out to my beautiful, lovely wife who actually started this project. I had to take Project Lena to work that morning. But when I got home, she was already deep into the project. I had just disassembled Project Spirit's taillight panel the day before, knowing full well what she had already planned. I got home, we worked together, and by 6 o'clock we were wrapped up and coming inside, cleaning up and preparing for supper. So, I want to give a special thank you to Princess Fay Rue Magnum, who actually initiated this whole thing, because as I'm making this video, I have not seen a day off in over a week from work. So she's like, and there's a whole bunch of circumstances behind that. But needless to say, if it was not for my wife, we probably wouldn't be this far along on Project Spirit. So as usual, if you enjoy content like this, be sure to hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit that bell icon. Unfortunately, just hitting the subscribe button doesn't mean as much as it used to here on YouTube. You gotta hit the bell icon so you'll be notified every time we upload a video like this or any of the other types of content here on the Prince Magnum channel that so many of you have come to enjoy. All right, as always, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is, just do something with yourself. Remember, idle hands and a creative mind go together like oil and water. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet. Do something special for them today. And as always, for all of you out there, if no one out there has told you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you, and have a happy 24. Thank you. Aircraft remover.